Alright, like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. It's Netflix time. This movie's called The Cloverfield Paradox. Orbiting above a planet on the brink of a war, scientists test a device to solve an energy crisis and end up face to face with a dark alternate reality. So it's a sci-fi action adventure film, came out 2018, it's about an hour 42 minutes long. I'm not sure if it's the aftermath of the original Cloverfield movie, but anyway, spoiler alert, let's get it. So here we have Ava and Michael. The situation is they've been having a bunch of power outages, and that's because the Earth is pretty much dying because they don't have any energy. So she's got to go help with a space team in outer space for like 6 months that she seems. Well, she thought the trip was going to be 6 months. Turns out it ends up being almost 2 years. They try to get this particle accelerator machine to give the Earth energy, but every time they do it, it fails. And at this point, they only have enough energy to do it 3 more times. After that, they're pretty much fucked. So as she's in space talking to her husband through Skype, he's telling her there's all types of madness and war breaking out and everything. And her backstory is the reason she even took this mission is because her kids died in a fire, so it gave her more ammunition to actually go on the trip. Had it not been that, she would have just stayed. Now, how they died in the fire, I have no idea. So anyway, you got the crew here is pretty much restless at this point. They're spending 2 years with each other. Somebody feels like this guy can't be trusted. Well, he feels that way because the other guy's Russian, and the Russians started this war back on Earth. Then they get reports on the news about skeptics talk about people traveling to other dimensions. Talking about they might pull out aliens or some shit. I know Captain's like, what the fuck is that guy talking about? Well, anyway, the crew tries to charge up the particle beam again, and they're almost successful at it. Then the glass breaks and the gravity drops. Yeah, it's a fucking trip. So as they're trying to get everything straight, they realize that the Earth is completely gone. What in all of the ether? Then at the explosion, apparently some things are offline. No communications are going through, property damage, everything. So because all these things are malfunctioning, they're really starting to think the Earth is gone. Then we get to the segment where this guy starts playing with his eye. I'll tell you about that later. Then all of a sudden they hear a noise coming from inside the ship. Turns out this chick was trapped inside of it, got wires all coming out of her hands and neck. How the fuck did she get inside the ship? Then all of a sudden we get the scene with Michael, so apparently the Earth is still intact. So now I'm just thinking to myself, the blast was so powerful they just floundered around in space. Then we get the scene with the game room where everything just starts moving on its own for no reason. Then we got these two trying to fix up some other shit on their own. As we got this guy preparing the ship, they said the worms are missing. I'm like, what worms? This guy starts checking on his eye again. And then all of a sudden, this shit just flips. Look, watch his eye, watch his eye. What the fuck? Then somehow he made a gun or got a gun on a ship and pointed at the 2 crew members working solo. Talking about he gave him the code to send the Russians to go to war or some shit like that. Then all of a sudden he collapsed and started convulsing. Then he just done deal dead, just flat out dies on the table. Then this nigga starts throwing up worms. I'm like, what the fuck? Well, now you know where the worms went, but how the hell did all of them get in his stomach? Then we see the picture again. The other 2 girls are not on the wall, but she is. It's like, whoa, what the fuck? Then when she's awake, she finally talks to Ava. And she's like, you're not even supposed to be on the ship. You're supposed to be with your family. Then as she's hugging her, she's telling her, don't trust the dude with the glasses. He's sending some type of messages back to Earth or something like that. Well, she told the captain, apparently the captain already saw some decoded messages from him. So he locks him in one of the containment units so he can figure out everything. He don't know what to think right now, but he's just not putting up with the bullshit. Meanwhile, Michael's back on Earth about to visit a hospital. He said communications with the spaceship is all damaged. He goes to this one hospital that's completely destroyed, but then in the shadows you could barely see it. It's like a glimpse of it, but this is big ass thing walking around probably about the size of King Kong. Or like some Godzilla type creature or something. He finds some little girl in the rubble and he takes her with him. Meanwhile, my man's working on the hole and my man's arm gets sucked into the metal. I'm like, what the fuck? They tried to pull him out, but when they did, it sucked up his whole damn arm. So now I'm thinking to myself, they're either really far away from the Earth or they're stuck in some type of parallel universe. Somehow the doors open and Schmidt is loose. Like, nobody let him loose though, but he gets everybody together and as they're walking around, they see this guy's arm crawling towards him. Fellas, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. So they trapped it in a box somehow. And it's telling them to cut the ship open once they give it a pin. I'm like, why and how? So they go back to cut open the guy that was spitting out worms. And what they find in his stomach is this thing called a gyro. Now, how the fuck was that in his stomach? Now, the gyro is the navigation system that somehow disappeared when they traveled into this alternate universe. But for some reason, it was inside of his stomach. So now they put it in its proper place. They now realize that they're on the other side of the sun. They're not that far away from the Earth. So now they gotta find some way to charge up the system, get out of this parallel universe, and hurry up and get back to the Earth because they're losing oxygen. Throughout all this, he's still trying to take this kid to the hospital where he found out the hospital was destroyed, so he's gonna take her to a shelter. He's got this bunker he's had for special occasions, and they pretty much chilling in there. So as Tam's going to check on one of the systems, she gets trapped in a room, and all of a sudden water starts flooding in. And the water's so compressed that the door is starting to break open. They're trying to save her, but the door breaks open and the water freezes, and she froze to death. Done deal dead. Damn. Losing crewmates one by one, this shit is crazy. So certain shit they can't fix without Tam, but Chase knows the coordinates, so she's gonna do it. This she tells Ava in this universe her kids are still alive. So she basically has her conflicted about staying in this timeline or going back to her own timeline. Ava tells the captain, look, I'll do whatever you need me to do, but you gotta get me back to this Earth. But it's not just for her sake, she needs to make sure that her other self doesn't make a mistake. So that she can save billions of other people in this timeline and the next timeline. Wait, so you mean to tell me with all the shit that's going on, you mean to tell me that she's the catalyst for what's going down here? That's pretty fucking far-fetched. That's very skeptical at best. Well, anyway, he goes to check on some shit, some metal starts flying towards the other side of the door. Then he gets sucked in by the plaster he was putting on the doors. And the CO2 canister hit the door and blew up one whole side of the satellite, which pretty much killed Mundy, done deal, dead. So once again, they losing people left and right. So now with all the problems they got to detach one part of the ship before it gets to 25%. If it does, it'll drag the whole ship down. And if it does, they'll never be able to generate any power to ascend to the Earth, and they'll never be able to get back home. So this somehow becomes a 3-man mission, and Chase and Schmidt stay behind. So yeah, they gotta get across this shit. But once they get there, the door is jammed. The only way you can get it free is to twist from the interlock, but in the process of doing that, somebody has to stay behind. So the captain decides to stay behind so he can twist the hydraulics. And yep, he goes floating into outer space. Done deal, dead. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Meanwhile, back in the shelter, Michael's looking at old videos of Ava, watching after the kid who's asleep. Now it becomes a thing of trying to charge up the ship to get it charged up to Earth one more time. But then when they get to the cockpit, Chase knocks out Ava. Well, damn, what the fuck? Then she starts killing everybody else on the ship. Ava finally catches up to her after she wakes up. And Chase gives this speech like, if I had to kill 3 people to save 1 billion, wouldn't you do the same thing? Then her and Schmidt go back and forth. He gets shot. Ava got away, but now she's basically hiding from Chase. There's a scuffle out in shoes, but she shoots a hole through the screen and Chase gets pushed through the screen. And gets sucked through the hole and she's in outer space. Done deal, dead. Then she does a recording and sends a message to herself about saving the Earth. Then we find out Schmidt's still alive. They charge up the hyper boosters again. And now they're back in their own dimension. They're getting calls from the space station. And now they're about to head back to Earth. Michael gets the phone call and he's like, he hears they're coming back down to Earth. He's like, no, don't let them come back down to Earth. It's too dangerous. All this crazy shit is happening over here. We're like, what crazy shit? And Michael's like, you're having to come back to these things. And we're like, what things? And as the pod is entering the Earth, this motherfucker jumps up and eats the pod. I'm like, what is that? What the heck is that thing? And that's how the movie ends. I'm like, what the fuck did I just see? The Cloverfield Paradox on Netflix. Check it out. Like, click, subscribe, do all that. You already know what time it is. Slick DZ, all DZ, Mr. Big. Get the goddamn slogan.